Good evening, I'm Taimur Shafiq and you're watching Global Dilemma. Tonight we will be discussing the bigger challenges facing UK, delivering a welfare system while keeping trust on public services, and also discussion will be taking place on the community cohesion. We've got a distinguished panel of guests in our studio today. Andrew Weston, Member of Parliament from Stretford and Urmston, and he is currently Under Secretary of State for Department of Work and Pension. Welcome to the studio, Andrew.
Thank you for having me, Taimur.
And alongside we have Councillor Wasim Hassan. Wasim is a long-term dedicated member of the community. He's served in education, nationally and internationally. Currently he is a councillor in Trafford. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure.
Okay, so we'll start the discussion, Minister. How did you first get involved into politics?
Well, I was actually born into a political household. My mum, who I sadly lost in the summer, was a councillor serving with Wasim actually for 13 years, just over in Trafford. My dad was a trade union official. He was a firefighter who went on to become regional secretary of the Fire Brigade Union. So the Labour Party was always in my blood. And then when I came into my 20s, and I could see through the final years of the previous Labour government the investment that had gone into public services and the NHS in particular, and I was a bit worried that we were going to lose, as we ultimately did, to the Conservatives. I decided to join the Labour Party myself, get involved, and then from there it kind of catches you unawares, really. You just slowly become more and more involved, and pretty soon I was running for council. Was elected to Trafford Council in 2011, went on to become leader of the Labour group when we were in opposition on Trafford Council, before then serving for 5 years as leader of the council after we took control in 2018. So I'd done several years in local government before my predecessor Kate Green stepped down to become deputy mayor to Andy Burnham here in Greater Manchester, and I was fortunate enough to be selected as the candidate to replace her, and I've been in Parliament for 3 years next week, ever since.
And Andrew, what motivates you in your role currently now as an Under Secretary of State for Department of Work and Pensions?
What are my main responsibilities?
What motivates you?
What motivates me, sorry. I think it's about wanting to make sure that communities across the country get a fair deal from the welfare system. So it's about having a safety net that works when people need it, but also saying one of my responsibilities is tackling welfare fraud, that it's not a free ride for people and that we won't be exploited as a government. We've got a responsibility to look after taxpayers' money so that when we have to support the most vulnerable in society, the welfare system can be there to look after people. So I want to make sure that, you know, benefits are at a sustainable level for people who need support. If you're out of work, you've got enough to live on. But I also want to make sure that we're targeting that support to the people that need it most.
We'll have a discussion around your role as the Under Secretary of State further on. But welcoming to the studio Councillor Wasim. Wasim, you also have a portfolio for lead for cohesion, community cohesion. You know, it's a difficult time for community cohesion.
Yes.
What's your journey into politics, and what motivates you in your role as the lead of the community cohesion?
Yes. Before becoming a councillor, I was a school governor for 15, 16 years in Trafford, and I was doing multiple, you can say that many things around as a volunteer organizations in Trafford and across Manchester as well. And then because, then I decided to hang on a minute, and why not to come into the front foot? So I had to serve the community. So I came into politics, you can say, which I wanted to do some meaningful difference in the community. And I came into politics because I wanted to lead with purpose and become the voice of unheard people. There are many, my constituents, particularly in Old Trafford, which I am the councillor, people don't come forward, they don't tell their problems. So I came into politics, I wanted to become their voice.
So you wanted to represent the community,
Yes.
which were often unheard.
Unheard. And number three, because fundamentally, since a young age, I was a lecturer. I've been teaching internationally, I explained to you already. And there was a passion, an innate passion and natural qualities, and I want to deliver. So this was the only platform, politics, where I can deliver to the community, which shaped me. So this was the main reason I came into politics.
And what motivates you in your role as a
community
cohesion lead?
cohesion. Oh yes, this is a very, very important responsibility has been given to me by local leadership and my colleagues, to be honest.
Important yet challenging.
It is
in
very
the current
challenging at the
climate.
minute, particularly the current political situation at the minute is going on. We know few political leaders are trying to divide the nation. They are trying to divide the communities. So as a Labour Party, we are trying to give a message of hope and tolerance within the community. And for the last couple of years, we try to gather all the imams and trustees and Catholics, all the leaders of different faiths and non-faiths within the community to come together and give the message to the community that we are together here. We wanted to give the message of hope, not hate, because Nigel Farage, I should say use the word, and other politicians are trying the discontentment within the community. And it is not going to happen. So as a lead of community cohesion lead.
Do you think the current polarization is just Farage leading the polarization, or do you think there's other elements involved?
There are many elements are involved, to be honest. He is the leading element of those elements.
I think he's an easy target for everybody at the moment.
He's totally, because he is trying to exploit. He's trying to exploit the people and trying to divide the nation while using different slogans. He did try the Brexit, which has damaged the economy of this country, Brexit, and now he's using immigration. The word immigration is being used for the last couple of years, and this is really very dangerous for this country, to be honest. So we are trying to give the message. No, it is a hope. We need to live together, and that's it.
Okay, Andrew, what does the transformation of DWP mean to the common people on the ground?
I think it's about improving service. If we're honest in the DWP, service standards for several years have not been where they should be. Very long wait times on calls. Even now, after some improvement, the average wait time, if you ring one of our departmental call lines, is over 7 minutes. If we're honest, that's not good enough. It is about a minute off from the previous year, and I expect to see further improvement. But that interaction with the DWP, if you're in touch with the DWP, unless you're applying for your state pension, it's because probably you are a person in need, and we need to make sure that we get that help to people as quickly and as easily as possible, and in a way that is as painless and stress-free for people at what is a difficult time as we possibly can. So when I went into the department after the general election, I was asked by the Prime Minister to become the Minister for Transformation. It was a totally new role. It's one that we've created, reflecting the fact that the Department for Work and Pensions makes payments to 20 million people all over the country each year, many of them many times throughout the year. But we don't have the best reputation because sometimes service standards haven't been where they should be. So it's about taking a look at how using technology better, working more smartly, we can deliver that customer service at all times at the level that people would expect of us, and that perhaps they've absolutely got the right to expect, but perhaps they've not seen as much in recent years.
But National Audit Officer says that DWP systems are outdated and fragmented. So why is it still challenging, the transformation?
The challenge of transformation is just that. It's the age of the systems. So there's an awful lot of media coverage over the last probably 3 or 4 years about, for instance, a scandal in carers allowance, a really important benefit paid to carers across the country looking after loved ones who saved the state thousands and thousands of pounds by providing that care themselves and in their own homes. And those people were let down basically because the carers allowance system is as old as I am. I'm 40 years old, and you look at that system, it's a black screen, green font, flashing cursor. It looks like a pre-MS-DOS system. And if you replicate that across the many service lines that we have in the DWP, there's a huge variability. So the universal credit system now is probably a decade old or more. That's one of the more modern systems that we have. But when you've got so many different systems servicing so many different benefits, and people often claim more than one benefit because lives are complicated, if those systems can't talk to each other, then it creates quite a chaotic overall ecosystem that the department operates within, and that's how you get some of the challenges that we have around poor customer service at times, maybe incorrect payments. Really, it's all about the fact that our systems are outdated, they can't share data across, and therefore there's an awful lot of work to do for us to achieve that transformation to give people the service that they would expect and perhaps that they're used to seeing in other sectors. So with the rise of online banking, or as you deal with your energy supplier, the systems are much, much more advanced than ours are, and we've got an awful lot of work to do to catch up. That's why we created the role of Minister for Transformation, and that's the work that I'm leading.
Andrew, you mentioned data, and the current time is highly intensive. There is intensive data available. How are you ensuring that we are making good use of technology and harnessing AI into our systems to perform with the pace of today's world, while making sure that the vulnerable claimants are not at risk?
That's a really important challenge, and for me it's about saying two things. One is that humans will always remain in the loop on decision making. So for instance, I've just taken a bill through Parliament, the Fraud, Error and Recovery Bill, which became an Act and received royal assent this week, and we are looking at how we can use AI and improve data to be able to access information more quickly, but ultimately to have a human in the loop when it comes to making decisions about people's benefit awards or whether they've overpaid, underpaid, etc. So AI is about enabling the people that we have to work smarter and be able to get to a decision-making point more quickly, but they always retain the decision-making power. The other point I think about moving to a more digital system, using AI, as you say, more data sharing, is about being digital where possible but human where needed. So a really good example of that is that on Thursday I did a soft launch with stakeholders of a tool that I've been bringing forward, effectively placing all of the services that you would expect to receive in a job centre in person in one digital space, a sort of job centre in your pocket, if you like, so that people who perhaps can't come into the job centre as easily, or perhaps are already in work but want to look for a new role on a higher salary or in a different field, are able to self-serve at a time that suits them, but always remembering within that there will be people who either don't want to do that or aren't digitally able to do that for themselves, so retaining the human element wherever we can. And that's got the advantage of letting that person serve themselves when it suits them, but it's also got the advantage of freeing up some of the time of our brilliant DWP staff, our work coaches who work with people face-to-face in job centres, to spend more time perhaps with people further away from the labour market or who can't go on the digital journey, so that instead of it being a 10-minute appointment for everybody where you can't always get very much done, we hope to be able to offer longer appointments as a result of the self-service for those who can, for the people who really need it.
Andrew, it's been over a year now. What are you doing to minimise fraud and error while making sure that the welfare reaches to those who deserve it?
The challenge that we face in the department on fraud and error, and it's important to remember sometimes that it is error rather than straightforward fraud, is significant. We lose approximately £10 billion a year to fraud and error in the department, but I have brought forward a series of changes in the department that will see us saving around £14 billion over the next 4 years on welfare fraud. The most obvious change that we've made is the Fraud, Error and Recovery Bill that I just mentioned, that looks at taking power of search and seizure when we're looking at serious and organised criminal gangs looking to exploit the welfare system. We're also changing the way that we can recover debt from people. So there is an unfairness in the system at the moment whereby if you are a person who is in receipt of benefits or you're paid PAYE by your employer and you owe the department money, we can deduct that directly from your payslip or from your benefits. But if you are self-employed or your income comes from other means, we cannot compel you to repay us. We can request that you pay back, but we don't actually have the power. But as a result of the bill that we've just taken through to become an act last week, we are now able to directly recover debt owed to the department directly from people's bank accounts. That's a power that HMRC already have, and it's something that now, with appropriate legal safeguards and where a judge has said it's acceptable to do so, we can deduct directly from people's bank accounts. That levels the playing field. It means it's no longer just people who are on benefits or in PAYE employment that we can recover from, but also often wealthier people who at the minute have been able to avoid paying what they owe.
Coming to yourself, Councillor Wasim,
Yes.
from a local perspective,
Yes.
what do you think these welfare reforms, are they reaching to the common people? Is common person having an easier or harder access to these welfare reforms?
Yes, a good question. It is easier and harder as well. Both sides. The easier in a way, the people, those who are unemployed and seeking job, it is easier for them. They can survive, obviously, because of the economic circumstances, what's going on in the country. And number two, it is harder for them, those who are permanently ill. They are sick. They said they are disabled. So for them, it is getting more and more worse economic situation at the minute. And number two, I want to add one thing very important. I'm representing Old Trafford. I'm representing Trafford. Trafford is the most lowest funded borough for the last 14 years in the country. You can check the record. Am I right, Andrew?
Yeah.
So that's pre-Labour's government.
14 years of Tories, austerity mayors have barely affected Trafford. Trafford is the most lowest funded borough in the country.
Of the metropolitan, so the city councils. Yeah.
Yes.
Have you, and Wasim, have you observed any changes in the policy in the connection with Westminster after Labour's taken over?
Yes, it is improving, and there is a good time coming. The local leadership, Greater Manchester's all leaders and MPs, including Andrew Western MP, they're all lobbying to the national government to give us more funding for the Trafford, because the Trafford is the most, as I told you, the most. And number two, very important, I want to record, in regards to council taxes. In Greater Manchester, Trafford Council is the second lowest council tax borough in the Greater Manchester. So we are working very hard. The local leadership is working very hard. We are passionate to do. We've been using reserves for them. Now we are at the stage where we need more money to influx the money, and the money we are waiting on the central government.
How do you see the budget 2025 from a local authority point of view?
It is a
Are you
balance.
more hopeful?
We are very hopeful, very optimistic. Yes, we are. And the minute we've been using, now we are on the balanced budget. Balanced budget means we can't use money out of our means. So we need means, the means mean we need money. So money will come from central government. So it will be hopefully in the next 6 months or 1 year time. Andrew is also working on it, and hopefully the money will come and we'll start spending on development.
Andrew has mentioned he's introduced some new systems. How do you feel, in the current technology-intense world or technology-intense country, do you think it's easier for residents to navigate through all these systems?
No, it will take time, because if people needs time to have skills and computer systems. Because Trafford Council is working very hard. We have provided hundreds of computers to the young generations, to libraries, and people need to more skillful about this area, and we are investing money on this. Yes.
Access to the system
Yes,
is becoming
100%,
challenging.
yes.
Coming to yourself, Andrew, Budget 2025 abolishes the two-child benefit cap. Is DWP ready to deliver this?
It's actually fairly straightforward to deliver. Universal credit, for all of its flaws, is quite a flexible system to administer benefits with. So we saw its ability to really scale up activity during COVID, for example. So I don't think that we see a significant challenge in taking forward the change from a process perspective. What I'd say about the two-child limit is that is going to take almost 3,000 children in my constituency out of poverty. It's a really important change. It's part of Labour's broader plan to take 550,000 children out of poverty across the Parliament. That is a record. That is more children out of poverty than any government has ever done as quickly as we have. We are only just a year in. That change alone on the two-child limit lifts 450,000 children out of poverty across the country. So I'm really excited to see that come forward, and I will make sure, as the Minister for Transformation, that the department is ready to deliver.
Do you think Labour government was a little bit delayed in delivering that one and not doing it in 2024 and then done in 2025?
I think what we said from the start was that we wanted to take the time to launch the Child Poverty Task Force to hear evidence from stakeholders, parents, schools, charitable organisations who specialise in poverty and in children and young people, and ask them what were the levers that we could pull that would have the biggest impact on child poverty, and we've listened to them. So pretty much every child poverty organisation, but I'm thinking as an example of the hugely reputable Child Poverty Action Group, have said to us loud and clear that the evidence is there that the two-child limit is the single best way and actually the most cost-effective way to lift a significant number of children out of poverty. I came into politics as the child of a single mum for part of my childhood who we were briefly dependent on benefits in my childhood, and I wouldn't have wanted my mum to have to decide which of the five of us ate that day, and that is something that I know that families are having to make a choice about at the moment in my constituency and across the country. So I'm delighted, as I say, to see it go, and I know people were eager for change, but I think it's right that we looked at the evidence, that we took the time to bring together the findings of the Child Poverty Task Force, and I hope people can see, because we delivered those findings this week, that we've acted on those recommendations swiftly.
Do you think Labour will get any political advantages from these reforms?
I think for the families that benefit, they will know that it is a Labour government that have given them that additional support, that much needed support. But it would be remiss of me not to say that we know that there are many opinions, both positive and negative, about the lifting of the two-child cap. But sometimes in politics, you've got to make difficult choices. And for me, this isn't a difficult choice in policy terms, whatever the political outcomes. I came into politics to make a difference to the lives of young people, to give all young people, whatever their background, the best possible start in life. And so if there is a political hit from this, I'm prepared to take it, because I will make the case that this is the right thing to do for our children and young people.
The reason I asked this question, Andrew, is Labour has lost a lot of political capital in the recent times to Reform, to Greens Party, to Jeremy Corbyn's party, and other political forces which are emerging at the moment. There seems to be a disconnect between the common people and the current Labour government straight away when it was formed. So are you hopeful with the current budget that you will be able to re-engage some of the political capital that Labour has lost?
Yes, I am hopeful. What I see coming out of the budget, not just from the abolition of the two-child limit, but from the significant uplift in the minimum wage, from the intervention that we're making on energy bills, is a government that's focused on reducing the cost of living for people. And when I go out on the doorstep, yes, there's frustration. That's normal for any government. But actually, when you talk to people about the problems that they're having, it's that issue of cost of living that they want to see action on. I think we saw really concrete action on that in this only our second budget. But what I'd say about, the mood in the country, these things change, these things fluctuate. We're only just over a year into office after 14 years in opposition. Polls change all the time. The public mood can shift. For me, it's about making the right decisions for the country, and I think that the decisions made in the budget were just that.
Wasim, the changes in the national policy, how will they impact the families in the boroughs like Trafford, and how will it impact the cohesion?
Obviously it will affect very badly to the people, those who are already. I am representing Old Trafford, which is one of the most poorest area of Trafford, and there are hundreds of people, those who are facing destitutes and poverty. And it will badly affect them. And when we go to the doorstep, the people ask us. And now we are very much optimistic. Obviously, the two-child benefits have been lifted, and it will increase.
So these national changes will actually
Will
benefit.
positive effect to, yes, 100%.
And what will be the impact on the cohesion element?
But in cohesion, we have a different school of thoughts. Different people come from different areas and different backgrounds. It will affect differently, because in cohesion, there are scholars and doctors and Protestants, and Catholics, imams and churches, the different people. So that national reform will affect differently to the local people, to be honest.
Andrew, why are the complaints and delays still so common for benefits like PIPs, the PIPs and ESAs?
So I think this is to do with the way that the benefit has been constructed over time. So PIP was created in the early years of the last Conservative government as a replacement for disability living allowance. It's quite a complicated benefit to apply for, and then you have to go through a functionality assessment as well. So there's an awfully long process in place where people can wait several months for a decision. What I'm working on at the moment is our health transformation programme that's looking to both speed up the PIP assessment process.
So do you think it will improve through that?
It will definitely improve. We're already seeing that some of the measures that we're looking to introduce will have an impact. But what I think is the ultimate ambition with PIP is to have all applications online, a more seamless journey. What can we do to give people confidence in the system, as well as speeding up that application process? Because you see appeals as well an awful lot of time, which makes me think that there's not enough confidence in the decisions that are being made. So it's about making the process quicker and easier for people, but also building that trust and confidence.
Labour government is transforming a lot of methodologies. Labour government is forming different legislations, and you mentioned your bill. What lessons have been learned from carer allowance overpayment? So there was a recent report published by Liz Sace OBE, who is very eminent in the field, that looked at some of the challenges within the carers allowance system, and we're as a result of that, we're looking at things like how can we say on carers allowance that 1 week of being slightly over the earnings limit, and sometimes that can be by a matter of a few pence, does leave people often facing sanctions and a loss of benefit. We want to look at whether we can introduce a taper effect there to make it easier for people so that there's a sliding scale. But the most obvious change that the Labour government has made, and we did this fairly early on in the carers allowance space, is to say that the earnings limit on carers allowance was far too low, and we've now, in a really straightforward way so that people can understand it, tacked it against 16 hours of work at the national minimum wage. That's a really important change. Everybody can understand it. It's a significant uplift. It's the biggest ever uplift in the earnings limit for eligibility for carers allowance. And I think it's about making sure that people have a really clear understanding, but also that the department is able to more clearly see when somebody has gone up or down on their earnings. The other thing that we are introducing, the carers allowance scandal came about as a result of a failure really to process something called VEPS alerts, which are real-time alerts from HMRC on people's earnings. And there was a system in place under the previous government where only 50% of those VEPs were checked at any one time. So some of the oldest VEPs that we were getting through, there was a system that put them in a priority order. So some of the lower priority ones, by the time they were finally processed by the department, had quite large overpayments in there. And that's why we were seeing some really disturbing cases of people who ended up owing many thousands of pounds, tens of thousands of pounds in some cases. So we've intervened to put the funding in place to ensure timely processing of 100% of those VEPS alerts, because it's not just about, making it easier for people to know whether they have earned over the threshold. It's about making sure that we can tell people in a really timely way when that's happened as well, so that if there is an overpayment that has happened, it doesn't accrue to a really significant amount of money. If I speak to somebody who is one of our carers allowance claimants and say to them, oh, there's a slight overpayment here, it's a couple of £100, that's not good news for anybody, but it's certainly a lot better than being rung up and told it's £7,000, £8,000 and you have to pay that money back. So it's about really clear guidance
and information for claimants, but it's about improving our systems as well and making sure that we're processing that real-time information from HMRC so that we can let people know much quicker that there's a problem with their claim.
Wasim, as a cohesion lead, what are the biggest challenges that you see for the community in Trafford and Manchester?
Yes, because obviously, as I already told you, the few national politicians are trying to divide the nations. And in Trafford, we have planned, which is called corporate plan, where all the segments of the community come together. And they are ready to contribute in education, health, and sports. And community cohesion means all the leaders and imams from all faiths, they come together, and we managed about 3 or 4 times. Andrew had managed in his constituency about 2 weeks ago. Yes, there are many faces. They are facing a lot of challenges are coming through.
Do you think there are any challenges between the community relations at the moment, or is it just politically motivated?
There are challenges. It is a politically motivated because they are trying to create a hate within the community. And our job is to keep them unite. So there are misunderstandings going on. They are trying to spread the hate and poison within the communities. So as a local politician, my job is to keep them united and remove the misunderstandings what's been spread nationally and locally. This is what we are trying to do, and we will be successful.
In addition to educating the community, what else has been done in locally in Trafford as a leader of the community cohesion?
Yes, we only a couple of weeks ago, what happened in Crunsall, a violent and coward attack on the innocent worshippers in synagogue. And we immediately called, me and my other colleague, we called all the imams and the leaders of the community to get together and condemn this violent attack on the innocent worshippers in synagogue in Crunsall. So yes, we are trying our best to keep the community united.
Wasim, do you think the current economic pressures or cost of living crisis,
Yes.
the welfare delays and uncertainty, do you think they directly impact the community relations?
It is badly affecting because obviously, as Andrew has explained already very comprehensively, because it is his area. And he knows better than me because obviously it's a reform system been broken by the Tories, and the people are asking us of the 14 years of mess what have been created by Tories, and they are asking us the answer within a year and a half. But we need time. We need a space to transform all those mess which has been done by the Tories.
Wasim, you're representing Labour Party. What other local leadership is important in maintaining trust between communities, and do you actually get positive feedback or help from other community leaders from across parties?
Yes, 100% sure. Yes, leaders from Sikh community, from Christianity, from Muslim community, from
these are interfaith leadership.
All interfaith leaders are on one page.
However, do you get enough support from cross-party political parties?
Yes, they are very supportive. They are
including reform.
There is no. I don't think so. The people are happy with reforms, to be honest. I come across with the leaders,
but as
they don't want division within the community here in Trafford, to be honest.
As a cohesion lead, do you ever negotiate with any of the reform councillors, or do they ever participate?
We don't have any reform councillor yet so far, to be honest, in Trafford. And they maybe have some candidates coming through in May 2026, but we don't have any reforms candidate, any reforms councillor at all in Trafford.
Also, you don't have a reform presence in the Trafford Council.
But they are on the media, to be honest. I mean, they are on the media and they are on the leaflets. They have money, and I don't know where the money coming from. Yes.
I mean, they are very active on social media.
On the social media.
They will, as Wasim says, contest the local elections in May. But I think it's important to say in Trafford as well, we have seen some challenging rhetoric from our local Conservative councillors.
Yes.
So they took a motion to council last week about an asylum hotel in Altrincham. It's not in my constituency, but it's something that I care about deeply. And it's been quite disappointing to see some of the narrative, both from Reform's online presence, but also local councillors who, in my view, should know better and shouldn't be stoking some of the community tensions that we've seen. It's difficult already in that area. There's been regular protests from the far right, and obviously that then leads to counter protests from people who want to challenge that narrative. So I think all community leaders, all politicians of all parties really should remember that they've got a responsibility to try and keep communities together.
So am I right in saying, Andrew, that do you accept that the welfare failures they can fuel the frustration and therefore division and mistrust?
So I wouldn't say that welfare failures stoke community tensions. I think what can accrue and build up is a sense of unfairness where people will peddle a narrative that suggests, for instance, if we take the case of the asylum hotel, that refugees are coming over here, they're given everything. Actually, the truth is, if you're in an asylum hotel, you get about £8 a week to live on. But if you talk to many people who are attending those protests or campaigning online on this issue, they will think that those people are receiving an absolute fortune. I couldn't live on £8 a week, even if I was staying in what can often be some pretty shoddy or certainly not very attractive asylum accommodation. And I think it's really important that we start to challenge some of that some of that narrative that's out in the ecosphere about the support that is being provided to people.
Wasim, you've worked on education nationally and internationally.
Yes.
What do young people need most right now to feel helpful?
Young people are facing a lot of problems at the minute. So the first problem they are facing is mental health issues. And number two is community and engagement, housing issues for the young people. And these are the 3 or 4 major issues the young people are facing. And the Labour Party is working very hard to create more and more jobs opportunities through apprenticeship. And so the Labour Party has a plan to build more and more houses, regeneration the economy. And when we build more and more houses, build more and more development, it means consequently the more and more avenues of employment will come. And the young people get the chance. So this is the only route the young people can get engaged in the communities, because they are losing mental health, the mental health issues. So we need to bring them engaged into the communities and build more and more houses, give them a confidence, and this is the only way.
You have mentioned apprenticeship, so
yes,
the government is putting a lot of investment into apprenticeship.
Yes.
However, the universities, some of the universities are now struggling to recruit, and Skills UK is constantly saying the gap in the skills is becoming wider and wider. What do you think, is apprenticeship the only route that government should focus on, or
I think
should there be a sustainable funding route for the higher education sector?
Yes, the government is funding too much money for the last. If you look at the comparison of Tories of 14 years and the Labour government, you'll see they have influxed a lot of money into the education as well as in NHS. And as I said, the apprenticeship is the only way. And the Labour Party is trying to give more and more vocational education and technical education, so the young people can get employment at a very young age. This is the only way, and the Labour Party is doing its best to provide more and more.
Andrew, what's your perspective? Is the government's white paper on the skills? They have said a lot of investment onto the further education sector. Mm-hmm. However, a lot of higher education sector is suffering from the funding crisis.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to remember, I think within this, that the Labour government has allowed an increase in tuition fees for the first time in a very long time because of, and that's not a decision to take lightly when you think about the debt that is passed on to students as a consequence, but that's a decision that we've made because we recognise that there is a question of the sustainability of funding in the higher education and universities sector. But just on skills more broadly, I think it's incredibly important to say here that as a consequence of the concepts set out in the white paper, we secured as a department in the budget an additional £725 million for the new growth and skills levy. That's the old apprenticeships levy funding in effect. But what we're also doing is recognising that apprenticeships should be viewed on a par with perhaps more traditionally academic routes. So at conference this year, Labour Party conference in Liverpool, the Prime Minister set out a revised target. So the last Labour government set a target of 50% of young people going to university, and the Prime Minister has changed that target, in my opinion rightly, to 2/3 of young people undertaking either traditional university routes or an apprenticeship. And one of the ways that we've looked to take that forward in what is a challenging funding environment is to step back from level 7 apprenticeship funding. So we will be defunding that as a government, because they are traditionally routes that are taken by people often over the age of 25, to reinvest that money in apprenticeships and new foundation apprenticeships for people as young as 16, so that the range of opportunities available to them is enhanced, and so that the sort of industries that the government is focused on, Wasim mentioned housing, he's right to do so. We have a terrible shortage of construction skills in this country, so the foundation apprenticeships will have a particular but not exclusive focus, for instance, on construction and engineering apprenticeships. I really welcome that change, because for too long there's been too much focus on higher education, I think at the expense of apprenticeships. We've seen a 40% fall in the number of people under the age of 22 undertaking apprenticeships over the past few years. We want to address that, and we want to say that a technical education is incredibly important. It will give you the skills that you need for a long, fulfilling and successful career, in just the same way that where it's appropriate for some young people, the university route does that as well.
But talking about the welfare system, Andrew, is welfare doing enough for young people, particularly those who are disadvantaged?
I think there's a real challenge in the welfare system where young people are concerned, and that is the increasing prevalence of young people claiming welfare support. And that's not a criticism of them. That to me points to a broader failing in the system. As children come through school, they're perhaps struggling to access mental health services, or special educational needs and disability systems aren't kicking in for them at the earliest possible level. So the government has announced this week some new roles looking at early intervention in SEND, because often what is happening is young people are leaving their formal education at the age of 18.
Yes.
And they are not work ready because their mental health is not where it should be to enable them to do that. And conditions such as stress, anxiety and depression are preventing those young people from entering the workforce. So it's not so much a failure directly of the welfare system, but that lack of holistic support for children and young people that leads them to not being work ready or not feeling able to undertake work because of the struggles that they're facing with their mental health. And the thing about mental health conditions, I am not a crank. Mental health is a real issue up and down the country, but it's a fluctuating condition that with the right help and support at an early stage, we can help people with, get them work ready, and tackle the issue that we're seeing of a real spike in young people claiming personal independence payments and the out-of-work component of universal credit because they are not well enough to work, because they've not had that mental health support in place. So, for instance, by the end of the Parliament, the Labour government will have put mental health support into every school and further education provider up and down the country. I think that's the sort of early intervention that enables us to get young people support that they need as early as possible, so that they are work ready, so that they feel confident and emboldened to work. And challenges that people will experience throughout their lives at time, stress, anxiety and depression, can be managed better, and therefore they are able to make a full contribution to the country, because there is an economic impact from the number of young people that we have at the moment who are out of work, economically inactive, unable to work through ill health, that I think we just have to tackle, because pretty soon we're not going to be talking about an under 25 youth mental health problem. We're going to be talking about an under 40s youth mental health problem. And when you think we're living longer at the other end of the spectrum, which of course is a good thing, we need those young people to be economically active in work, making a contribution, paying taxes, helping with GDP and economic growth, so that we can afford to maintain the triple lock and look after our pensioners in their old age. So there's a whole system challenge here. It starts with early help and support. It runs all the way through to making sure that those who really need welfare support can get it. but that those who with a little bit of extra help can be in work at a young age are, because a recent report showed that a young person who is out of work under the age of 25 is perhaps losing out on as much as £1 million in earnings through their career because of the impact of that. So this is a really thorny challenge. It's something that the Labour government has to get on top of. We've inherited a terrible mess with 1 million young people not in education, employment or training, and I am absolutely determined to do everything I can to provide the support to the young people they need to help them to prosper and to enjoy a fulfilling life. We must remember that for the vast majority of people, and some people will never be well enough to work, work is good for mental health, and work is good, the sense of making a contribution to society is positive for mental health. There will, as I say, be people who can't, or perhaps traditional journeys aren't right for them, but I want to make sure that young people feel supported and aren't just caught in a welfare trap, which is what we're seeing an awful lot of at the moment.
Wasim, that was a comprehensive answer,
Yes.
Andrew. Thank you for that. Wasim, what local challenges do you see for Labour Party, the political challenges in the current climate?
At the local politics, as a local politician, I will say there are. I will only talk about Trafford, and my focus is Old Trafford, where I'm a councillor for Old Trafford. Health inequality.
If you can tell us what is the situation, you have Labour control in the Trafford Council at the moment. How many councillors do you have? What is the current political climate in Trafford, and what do you see in 2026?
Oh, yeah, we are at the minute about around 40 councillors in Labour parties. We have 40 councillors, and other parties have, Tories have 10, Green have about 6 or 7, similarly about 5 or 6, I think they have Lib Dems.
So what is the total number of councillors?
62 councillors, am I right?
63.
63 councillors we in Trafford. And
So Labour is
as I said, we are at the minute at this stage till today. We are fully controlling the Trafford. So Labour Party is controlling Trafford. After many years, when Andrew was a leader of the council, I was one of his team player when we turned the Trafford red after a long time, and we took over in 2018. Am I right? Yes, and then we are in a very strong position at the minute. But we never know, because the situation is going very bad.
Who is which political party is the main opposition in
Tories. They, at this stage,
Conservative at this
conservatives.
moment.
They are around about 10 councillors now, and there will be more councillors coming through, maybe 3 or 4 in next 2026, which I think they will come as a main opposition. So reforms they may get 3 or 4 seats, to be honest. I mean, this is my personal analysis. Andrew, am I right?
I think so. I mean, we know that these are challenging times. We've moved from opposition to power. People were desperate for change, and voting Labour as a consequence of that. As we move into government, as is always the case, people will start to look at us differently. They'll look at opposition parties differently. And UK politics is starting to fragment on left and right as well. So we'll have to see what happens. But as Wasim says, we've got a commanding majority on the council at the moment. We're incredibly well led by Councillor Tom Ross, our leader,
Yes.
and I really hope that we are able to stand up to our opponents in May and continue to have the majority that we've got at the moment.
What does the success looks like, Andrew? The success of this government?
Oh, I think it's about making people feel wealthier. It's about improving the NHS. It's about growing our economy so that we can deliver opportunity for everybody and build the housing that we need.
If you can add something to it, Wasim, what does the success looks like locally?
I want to give a very long answer to this question, to be honest.
If you can do it precisely.
I will go very
towards-
briefly. All I want, people are asking us the mess of 14 years of conservative in 1 year and a half. So I always say to my constituents, across Trafford as well, give us a time, give us a space, and then after 5 years we will give you the answer. So in a wink, nothing can be changed. We need more time to deliver, and we are trying. Andrew,
But Wasim, you've still been in the decisive position and in the locally
Yes.
and GM,
Right,
the mayor of.
Right. Let me explain to you that people must be listening and watching to us. Money comes from central government. It is never been produced money here in locally. The money comes from national government to the local government, and then we work for the development. So we are waiting for the money to come and deliver.
How would you define the failure of this government, and what would the failure look like if this government fails?
Right. Okay. do you know what the Brexit has done this country? They have damaged the economy of this country, number one. Number two, Mr. Farage, he promised this nation that he will be giving billions of pounds to NHS. Anybody can ask him a question, where are those billions of pounds? And the Labour government, since have come into power, look at the stats and the mathematics, how many millions of pounds? Andrew, am I right? Millions of pounds have been invested into NHS. And the queues, people who've been waiting for long, 6 months to a year, has gone down. So, I mean, now every child of primary school will have a free meal. It is a lot of reforms Labour is giving. And now look at the minimum wage, the age, minimum wage, all these things, reforms are coming through from Labour Party. We need time to deliver. It will not come in just in 6 months' time. It is a complete mess. And Brexit has damaged this country's economy, to be honest.
Andrew, what does the failure look like, failure of this government?
Well, I think judges on the key things that we've said that we want to deliver. So that is improving the NHS, tackling child poverty,
yes,
and lifting the standard of living. So on all of those three indicators, we've made really positive progress. 5 million more GP appointments when we actually said that we would do 2 million in our first year. NHS waiting lists falling months and months and months in a row. Child poverty now set to fall by 550,000 across the Parliament. And actually, after the Conservatives left office as the only government in history to have worse living standards at the end than when they came to power, we're already on track to reverse that and see an increase in living standards. So I'm incredibly hopeful that is a record of delivery that we can take into the next election. And if we do that, I'm confident we'll be successful.
Is rebuilding the confidence on the institutions realistically possible in the current political climate and the current political polarization?
I think rebuilding confidence in institutions is challenging, because when you get an organisation like, for instance, the DWP, if somebody's had a bad personal experience, winning them round is difficult. But what we need people to look at is the whole picture. So, as I say, if at the end of the Parliament we have delivered on the NHS, we have delivered on living standards, we have delivered on child poverty, then we've done what we said we'll do, and I hope people will put their trust in us again.
A stronger welfare system means nothing but if it delivers to the people on the ground. I am Taimur Shafiq, and you've been watching Global Dilemma. I will see you next week.